Hello everyone, our favorite Digital Circus has already reached 187 million views, and still no news about the next episode. But we are not upset and try to continue to please you with new videos of our favorite show. In this video, I want to tell you a crazy theory about what might happen in the second episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and comment, and here we go. First of all, I would like to talk about Kinger, because the fate of this chess piece is still of interest to many people. Everyone remembers the picture on the door, which shows exactly the same figure as our Kinger, but they differ in color. There are a lot of theories about this missing figure. Some people think that it is his friend or brother, but still most people agree that it is Kinger's wife, who disappeared from the circus for reasons unknown to us. But I want to tell you something else. What if it's not a character from the past at all, but a huge hint for the next episode? I think everyone noticed how close this character was to the other similar images we were shown. I think Gooseworx was trying to tell us something. I think there is an 80% chance that Kinger will turn into an abstract monster in the next episode. But how that's going to happen is what we're going to explore. Even after the pilot episode, we realized that Kinger has very serious mental problems that will lead him to the expected result sooner or later. I think the pilot was just a warm-up for a really interesting story about Kinger's problems. I think in the next episode, Kinger will sink more and more into madness, and seeing all this, Kane will decide to help Kinger finally abstract. Kane will use all his imagination to come up with some really scary illusions that will drive our poor Kinger crazy. But that's just the beginning of our video, and we've dealt with Kinger, so you know that the second episode will most likely focus on Kinger's story and its predictable ending. Now let's talk about the most valuable and main character of the Digital Circus, Pomni. This jester did not finish his first day in the best way. You can see that Pomni has started to repeat the path that Kinger probably went in the past, but that's not the most important thing. Pomni is a young 25-year-old girl who, judging by the way she talks, used to be a pretty fun girl with a lot of friends. As soon as she joined the circus, her friends and family immediately started panicking and looking for her, but only her sister knew about Pomni's crazy fascination with computer games. And when she decided to put on that very unfortunate headset, that was the moment she entered the Digital Circus, because as we found out earlier, Kinger will most likely be abstracted in the next episode, and we will see the so-called character exchange. Kinger in the form of a monster will go to the basement, and Pomni's sister, let's call her Ronnie, will get into the amazing Digital Circus. And that's where the main story of the second episode begins. As soon as Ronnie enters the Digital Circus, Pomni is the first to tell her how it works and that she has some abilities that the other characters do not have. After discussing the situation they find themselves in, the sisters come to the conclusion that despite all the talk from the other circus residents, there is a way out and it just needs to be found. The first solution is to try to get out through the void. Pomni and Ronnie will be able to get into the secret room and then into the void itself, but as soon as they get there, they will immediately start experiencing very strange events that are different from what Pomni experienced on her first trip through this digital space. First of all, they will not enter the state of anabiosis, and also around them some horrible silhouettes will constantly flicker, and when they will be on the verge of madness, Kane will appear, who will be very malicious towards our sisters, and at the same time he will immediately return them to the circus and show that the void is really his project, created to entertain the inhabitants of the circus. But this situation will make you understand that Kane will no longer be so neo-storic and will constantly keep an eye on the new inhabitants of the circus, because he will already know that they are ready for anything to organize an escape from the digital prison. Now let's talk a bit about the pilot episode, namely about the dialogue between Ragatha and Pomni, in which Ragatha mentioned that only Kane can get rid of her and Pomni's glitches, but attentive viewers noticed that at the moment when Ragatha said these words, Pomni obviously thought that she could be cured, and you noticed that the glitches on her hand completely disappeared, but as soon as she was distracted, they came back. All of this suggests that Pomni really does have some supernatural powers, and after realizing this, our sisters will have a plan of action. But the main problem will be to find the place that is the exit, and this is a really difficult task, because it is definitely there, but very well hidden from our eyes. And what we were shown at the end of the pilot episode is not a way to freedom at all, but just an illustration of what is a guide to the circus, but certainly not a way out of the circus. It's impossible to just create a way out, which means they're going to have to look long and hard. Part of the new episode will illustrate this. I think the exit is somewhere on the circus grounds, and if you look closely, there is a big difference between the final version we see in the pilot and the Gooseworx leak. The lake, the amusement park, and the circus itself are identical, but in the original version, there is a mysterious building that looks like a cheap hotel. I have a hunch that this is the place we were shown in the lunch scene with Kane and Bubble. Most likely the restaurant is on the first floor, and on the second floor there are rooms, one of which leads to a digital corridor that leads to the coveted portal to the real world. After a lot of searching and thinking, our Pomni and Ronnie manage to understand all this, and they will show us how to get there. And after finding the coveted door, they will be ready to go to the end. But everyone remembers that in this room, besides our catfish and his digital pet, there were also mannequins, which are not only the body for future characters, but an army of Kane who will do anything for their master. And when our sisters come to the end of the corridor to teleport to the real world, several dummies will appear right in front of them, ready to destroy our fools. And behind them, we'll hear a very familiar, haughty voice, and after the camera turns, we'll be shown. Who will we see? Stop the video and write a comment. Well, I'll keep it short and say it's going to be Zubal. You're going to ask me, how come? Why did this strange figure appear behind our heroines? Well, let's start from the beginning. Everyone remembers how Zubal brazenly refused to participate in the adventure to find Gloinks, so Kane immediately ordered those creatures to dismember Zubal into many different parts. Of course, they put her back together again. But Kane remembered the incident, and in the second episode, we'll see the toothy administrator visit Zubal's room and have a soft talk with her. I don't think we'll see the action scene, but we'll hear their entire conversation behind closed doors. In short, the gist of their conversation is that Zubal must work for Kane and tell him everything that is going on. And if she refuses, she will be broken into many pieces, which is actually worse than turning into an abstracted monster. And that's where the Zubal line in episode 2 comes in. Remember how I said that Kane drove Kinger to his ultimate madness? What I didn't say at the time was that not only was Kane involved, but Zubal was involved as well. And the destruction of Kinger was a cunning plan, executed with the utmost precision and timing, as Kinger's transformation into a monster had to coincide with the time Sister Pomni turned on the game and put on her headset. Back to Zubal and Kinger. In one of my videos, I described how Zubal drove Kaufmo insane, and the same method she used to accomplish her goal with Kinger. After successfully executing her plan, Kane has a new task for Zubal. But why did Kane decide to destroy Pomni and use Zubal to do it? Pomni is a real threat to Kane, but she wouldn't dare to repeat her journey to liberation alone. But with her sister's help, it might have worked, so there is a possibility that someone from the real world told Pomni's sister where to look for the missing girl. And Zubal is the most arrogant character who doesn't care about anyone, so she's willing to do anything to save herself. And after Ronnie got into the Digital Circus, Zubal became active and started to give hints little by little, but at the same time she was constantly watching Pomni and Ronnie. At the same time, she was constantly putting all sorts of creepy thoughts into the sisters' heads, and when the time came, Zubal gave a little hint where they should go, and as soon as they left, Zubal immediately told Kane about it, and then the main action began, which unfortunately also marks the end of the second episode. And a little bit about the rest of the characters. Gangle we will almost never see, only at the beginning of the episode with Kinger before all the unfortunate incidents. Jax, as always, will be making fun of everyone, including Ronnie and Pomni, and Ragatha, as always, will be the kindest person who will try to help the sisters from the bottom of his heart without any bad thoughts. What do you think about this really interesting but also very crazy scenario theory for the next episode of the amazing Digital Circus? Write your opinion in the comments. I'd really like to read it. This is the end of our video. I wish you success and good luck. And it's time to say see you soon in new videos that will appear every 2 days.